achieving economic independence, as well as to accelerate the development of, to strengthen partnership among developing countries. To date, since 1999, we have delivered approximately 453 programs involving no less than 5,480 participants from 80 countries in the world. The South-South and Triangular Cooperation of Indonesia has expanded rapidly in the past 6 years, and it's covering many fields, including agriculture, marine and fisheries, rural development and poverty reduction, women empowerment, just to name a few, including the democracy and conflict resolution, as well as in the industry, microfinance, trade, and many others. The South-South and Triangular Cooperation has been effective in developing the capacity of developing countries. This is in particular due to the matching capacity and technology level between the South countries. And in order to ensure the effectiveness of the programs, Indonesia implements the South-South and Technical Cooperation under these principles. The first is demand-driven. We make sure that as the technical cooperation, every technical cooperation programs are tailor-made and implemented based on the needs and requests of the beneficiary countries. And we also implemented the technical cooperation programs in a based on the shared experience approach. We never claim that we know everything. We perfected what we have been doing so far, but because we know that by sharing our experiences, we would learn more from the countries that we are providing the assistance. And lastly, we also provide a technical cooperation based on mutual interest, not only the interest of beneficiary country, but also all stakeholders involved, including the donor partners. In the framework of the Triangular Cooperation, because we named the program in the initiative in South-South and Triangular Cooperation. So it's not only between Indonesia and the beneficiary countries, but we also involve other development partners in the Triangular framework. We have the partners, namely from JICA, the Colombo Plan, IDB, USAID, and we just talked with the SISRIC from the OIC, and we have potential cooperation that we are going to implement later. Indonesia is also committed to the development of Asia-Africa region. Maybe you are aware that last year we hosted the 60th anniversary of Asia-Africa Conference, and we announced at that time the establishment of Asia-Africa Center, and it was established last year. And since July last year, there have been already 16 programs delivered, involving a number of 550 participants from a number of countries of Asia and Africa. And the overall Indonesia South-South and Technical Cooperation implementation is currently coordinated under the National Coordinating Team of SSTC. Now we are looking into establishing an independent single agencies under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to oversee the whole implementation of the SSTC. And it is expected that the agency will be operational in 2017. Of course, Indonesia stands ready, as I mentioned earlier, to be involved in this new initiative. And I believe that there are potential collaboration between Indonesia and each individual countries or as a group of Central Asia countries. I think that's for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to move to our development partners. I would like to invite Ms. Cihan Sultanoğlu, Assistant Administrator of the UNDP, for her initial remarks.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon and to be a part of this conversation. At the UN Development Program, we see the IDB group as a strategic partner, and the potential for this partnership is most great indeed in Central Asia. We congratulate all of you at the IDB group for the SPCA. It represents a best practice in terms of a systematic and programmatic approach, and we were also very happy to be part of the consultative process in the validation workshop in Istanbul, and certainly the fact that SPCA is developed as a partnership platform is very attractive to us. Now, Central Asia is a very critical area for UNDP, huge potential, as we have heard, but also a lot of challenges. Poverty, exclusion, inequalities, very serious in the region. Also, about 40% of the migrant workers in Russia are from Central Asia, and certainly economic crisis effects are also quite seriously felt, especially in the context of natural resources and gas oil production. We have annually about $90 million grant programming in Central Asia. This is all grants, and we work in all Central Asian countries plus Azerbaijan. So the coverage is very much like the IDB. UNDP emphasizes partnerships a lot with national governments first and foremost, but also other UN, IFIs, private sector, and civil society. In all the countries, the emphasis we have is on inclusive and economic growth, but this growth has to be equitable, has to be people-centered, and sustainability is also a key criteria. And there the focus is very much on natural resources management, disaster risk reduction, and adaptation and mitigation of climate change. A lot of good results, maybe we can talk about them later in the second part, but let me briefly tell you how we see our potential contribution to the thematic pillars of SPCA. Firstly, there is agriculture. It's a key sector for employment in most of the region, also a big driver of livelihoods and sustainable human development, a priority area for IDB. The synergies with UNDP in especially irrigation and agro-processing, and there again we can go into many examples, I hope, later. But let me just tell you about our regional Aid for Trade project, which has been going on for years in Central Asia, supported by Turkey and now Finland. It has been supporting companies to expand their productive capacities and access to new markets with an employment generation focus. As a result, within 4 years, we have created 1,900 jobs and improved the income of 4,500 families. Within 1 year, Aid for Trade project in Central Asia supported export contracts worth $30 million in Tajikistan, and our agricultural information system has well over 160,000 users. Second area where we see synergies is trade. IDB has put logically private sector and trade as drivers of sustainable development, and certainly as long as this is people-centered, framework is established, indeed trade is a big growth factor. There, again, areas of cooperation is capacity building. UNDP's bread and butter is improving capacities, and also maybe creation of joint information portals for the region. And certainly knowledge sharing, a very important key. Thirdly, I would like to offer the area of energy, huge potential for renewable energy in the region. And there we have also great experiences to offer with Global Environmental Facility and other partners. And many of these projects can be expanded and scaled up with support of partners who are all here, and certainly in collaboration with the IDP. So we look forward to working together with all of you so that we can indeed help realize this huge potential of Central Asia.
Thank you, Ms. Sultanoğlu. Now I would like to invite Dr. Sasha Jumena, Regional Manager for Central Asia of the World Bank. Please.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here, and thanks for the invitation. Does this work here better? Okay. Thanks for the invitation, and I'm very happy to be here. I would like to congratulate you very much on the SPCA. I think it's a wonderful document, and it picks the right pillars. Obviously, I was also in Istanbul, luckily, so I have some some knowledge of it before and fits very well into what the World Bank is doing. I don't want to repeat what the distinguished panel has said because I can subscribe to many things that have been said before me, but maybe pick a few areas. Obviously, our client countries hopefully will subscribe to the SPCA and work with us to implement. I think you've done a nice paper, the strategy is set, and I think now the role is really how to implement certain projects on a regional level. At the World Bank, we've been working for the past 20 years in Central Asia on many fronts: energy, transport, agriculture, the ones you mentioned. And trade and competitiveness is a bit more difficult given the landlocked nature of our countries, and it is not only trade within the countries, but also trade to the outside world that is important: north, south, east, west. This is where I think where the regional aspect of the program really comes to the forefront. National work is fine. We just recently given $1 billion to Kazakhstan to enhance competitiveness. We're about to approve a project, that's why I need to go back to our board, about $1 billion for a transport project, a road project, center-south and center-west. So these are projects that fit in on the national level to enhance the regional trade and cooperation. However, the truly regional projects really mean that we have to work together because they're not as simple as the national implementation. So a recent example where we worked nicely together is the CASA project, Central Asia, South Asia Energy Project. These types of projects take a long time to develop, and I think the SPCA gives a basis to continue such types of cooperation going forward, whether it's CASA, whether it's transport, regional roads, other areas that come to mind, where the countries themselves show a willingness to work together. Because even among the for us, it's 5 Central Asian countries plus Azerbaijan. If we come together and work together, then it's implementable, and then we can have show results. And that's really what we see this SPCA as the basis for, to go to those results on the areas that you mentioned. As an aside, we also work on education, health, and social protection, obviously, but I think it's good that the program focuses particularly on these infrastructure areas that we would absolutely like to support, including from the private sector, and our IFC arm is obviously, as a World Bank group, we stand ready to support you on all those fronts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sasha. Now, I would like to have some brief questions for our panelists. So let me start with Ambassador Opeleyaro. So you rightly placed SPCA within the context or framework of OIC PACA. So it's in that framework that this program has been designed. So now it is critical that we have a good implementation. And how do you see the role of OIC General Secretariat in the implementation of this ambitious program for Central Asian countries?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I just have said that the SPCA takes care of the implementation of our physical infrastructure project, but of course we are not saying that IDB is going to be the only institution that will be involved in the implementation of this project. Of course, in the first place, we have a political platform, which is the high-level meeting, which is actually the mechanism that will monitor the progress of implementation of this resolution. And then, of course, it will also make their views known to the Council of Foreign Ministers, which is the CFM, and that is the highest decision-making body of the OIC after the summit. So in this case, the IDB being a member of the technical committee, the executive committee also comprises institutions, all OIC institutions. It also comprises some partners also that are also working on this. For example, we have in the area of trade, we even have some private sector contribution. TOBB, for example, one of the institutions, the private sector umbrella institution of Turkey, is working on this particular project in the area of modernization of border gates, in Central Asia. So we have all the commitments, and the programs are there. We have a program which is an 8-point program, and all the institutions have developed a matrix, and then the meetings will continue together with IDB, and we'll continue to monitor all this, the implementation of these projects. I believe that at the end of the day, we should be able to get all member states to at least to try to speak to this project, to support this project, and then through also the institutions also. And at the end of the day, by the time we have the physical infrastructure being developed by IDB, and we have also the human capital development, the health, education, and all our institutions are going to contribute holistically to this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Opeliero. So I would like to come to Mr. Said Aga. So this new program for Central Asia also coincides with the new 10-year strategy of the IDB group. New strategy of the IDB group. So in that of course, South-South cooperation has been one of the key areas of IDB group, key focus areas of IDB group. So how do you see this new program in the context of our new strategy? And how do you think this program will contribute to our South-South cooperation modalities? Thank you.
Thank you. As I mentioned, even before our 10-year strategy, cooperation among member countries, regional cooperation, enhancement of partnership between member countries is as part of the Articles of Agreement of the Islamic Development Bank. So it's at a higher level than the strategy. And this is why we are quite excited to see this program coming through. As far as the strategy itself, the 10-year strategy that we have just embarked, this is the first year, cooperation is one of the major pillars of the 5 pillars that the Islamic Development Bank has chosen for itself for the next 10 years. Regional cooperation and cooperation among member countries is a solid pillar. So it fits in that pillar. And in fact, IDB is gone to some sort of hard indicators. For instance, stating that at the minimum, 15% of our resources will be allocated towards regional cooperation and cooperation between member countries. So this program is the first of its series, and the cooperation between these countries are in itself a South-South cooperation. But more than that, this program will generate lessons in best practices that can be used in other parts of the world, in this part of the world, in Africa, in the MENA and Middle East region. We have a specific department on capacity development, and one of the elements of their work is famously reverse linkages or technical cooperation between member countries. So we will be working very closely, in addition to other dimensions of implementation in achieving the objectives of the program, so we can extract the best lessons learned, and also expertise from the region that can be used in other regions of the IDB member countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to move to Mr. Sumbul. You know, AFTIAS, of course, is one of the biggest programs that ITFC has managed, Aid for Trade Initiative for Arab States. And you have a lot of experience in this context for regional cooperation. So what kind of lessons learned we have from AFTIAS, and what will be the success factors given this experience for the Central Asian countries in this new program? Please.
Thank you. I think FTS, which is the abbreviation for the Aid for Trade for the Arab countries, is one of the actually initiatives that we feel very proud to lead in ITFC. And the whole concept, to simplify the concept, is just we are trying to build the capacities of the countries to be able to trade. That's the simple definition. Of course, the initiative has many different areas, which tackles the trade facilitation, promotion, capacity building. All of this as actually part of the Aid for Trade initiative. Since we started the this initiative, we have seen, many lessons that can be learned if we want to replicate this in Africa or in the CIS countries. I think the engagement of the countries from the beginning is a very important aspect to own actually this initiative, rather than, of course, because the initiative may also have donors and have also a number of international organizations that will be looking after the executing of the programs. It's a very complex relationship, and if you want to cover the whole area, with different, for example, the Aid for Trade for Arab countries has more than I think 10 international organizations that are working. That several donors, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Egypt, Sweden, and you see the complexity of building this kind of a relationship has to be very much taken into consideration. Clarity is very important from the beginning, so that you don't really have obstacles when you come to implementation part. So the right management mechanisms has to be in place. The right financial management mechanism has to be in place. The definition of the roles of all the players in such important initiative has to be defined very well. I think as I mentioned, that all of these steps can make your really the phase of implementing this initiative very easy. However, also really looking at sometimes these kind of initiatives, because it involves this number of really partners and donors, you really have to go to simplify. Simplification is very important, because when you have heavy structures to really administrate this kind of initiative, definitely you will have issues. One of the things that we have faced with FTS is that the complexity of really establishing a board for the initiative, and then we establish all of this, it really took so much of our time in the administrative and in the streaming line things. Because it is our first initiative, definitely we have to face this kind of knowing each other, knowing what is exactly the UNDP is doing, and what is their mechanisms, and how do they manage their international partnership, looking at the ILO and looking at the for example the ITC, and so we have to know each other, when we have to know the procedures and the regulations, so that when it comes to implementation, you don't really have this kind of obstacles sometimes to delay the implementation while the countries are waiting for deliverables. And I think that is one of the major lessons, that to simplify as much as you can. I'm trying, we are trying now at I would say in the middle, we are almost toward the end of the first phase of FTS, and we are learning already the lessons and trying to now to correct them while we are going, before we go into the final stage, where we have to, at that, hopefully we'll declare inshallah success for that. For the SPCA, of course, as I mentioned in my first intervention, is that we will focus on these areas, which is the policy formulations, and also we'll look into capacity areas, because we have seen from the initiative, we have seen many of these areas. Trade finance will have to increase. We cannot continue. We have to diversify. Also the trade finance programs within the region, capitalize on the success factor. However, I feel that it was a good experience for ITFC to lead such an initiative. It was very well appreciated. It was very well by the international community, and I'm sure that if we're going to go and do something similar, and in the future, taking into consideration this experience, I'm sure that we will have a very successful initiative, inshallah.
Thank you, and we are looking forward to your successful interventions in this context. So, coming to Ms. Siti Nugraha, of course, Indonesia is one of the strong contributors to our reverse linkage program. And in this particular program, we have also a good experience between Indonesia and Kyrgyzstan on, we can say, agriculture sector in general. So now we are very pleased to hear that you are now having a new agency for international cooperation in 2017. So how do you see the prospects for Indonesia having higher engagement in the Central Asia region?
Well, thank you very much. To tell you the truth, we have a really limited engagement with Central Asia so far. So with this SPCA initiative, we look forward that we are going to increase the involvement, especially with the IDB in the central seat here, because we've been working together with IDB with reverse linkage, and we are looking forward to more of the program on this. Yesterday I met with another potential country for the reverse linkage with IDB that not on the agriculture sector, but we have other sectors that we stand ready to be implemented in IDB. So we really need to sit down and look into the what that we could offer for this Central Asia. I learned that the SPCA has identified several sector main focus for this initiative. We could work starting from that, but we're really looking forward for that. And with this new single agencies, we are also hoping that the deliverables of the program would be more effective and efficient. So for now, I could only say that we're really looking forward for that, and especially to increase the engagement with the Central Asia, because when we are providing some technical assistance, we also learn from the interactive learn, and I'm sure with Central Asia, where the economic development not almost at the same with Indonesia, we would learn more than from our traditional recipient partner from development cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sultanoğlu. So of course now it is time to implement, and UNDP also gives special attention to the implementation of the programs. So how can we make this SPCA program more impactful by working together? So what are your views?
Thank you very much for the question. I try to highlight with some key words where I see the substantive collaboration, but you are absolutely right. We can be a great partner to IDB in the implementation of SPCA. We have decades-long partnership in all the 5 Central Asian countries and Azerbaijan, and very good indeed access and networks in terms of working with everybody, from the central authorities to the local level to the beneficiary level. In fact, in most of our projects, we integrate the beneficiaries from the very beginning. This is very important, especially when you are looking into building capacities and sustainability of what you are trying to create. But the most important thing is the quality of the project. So design is very important. From the design stage, you have to make sure that all the elements of your vision are taken care of, and you do have the right partners, international and national. Efficiency of implementation, because we are all indeed using the resources of partners, our stakeholders. So clarity of purpose, in fact, gives also impetus for efficient implementation, and certainly results. We have to be very much focused on the results and constantly try to evaluate our achievements and where we failed, so that we can, as Mr. Sumbul mentioned, we can continue to improve even as we go along. We shouldn't wait until the projects are over for that. We have a very good practice of that in UNDP. We, from time to time, do a retrospective of our studies. Maybe, I don't know if it can be seen on the camera. For example, this is a package we did on the sustainable energy and human development efforts of UNDP. And this is on the labor migration, remittances, and human development in Central Asia. We also looked at aid and trade issues in Central Asia. So this constant learning and also learning from each other is very important. Not each project is a silo. Projects will have to talk to each other, and also we have to talk to each other. I think this dynamic, in fact, approach to project implementation is a major key that we have to be striving for.
Thank you, thank you. Can I ask the same question, Dr. Sasha? What can we do together with World Bank?
Yeah. No, thank you very much. I think it's a good question because it really leads to the fact that how do we coordinate and cooperate so that we don't, so that we get the most impact for our projects together with our client countries. And I think you've done the research. You've picked the areas that really, also in our view, will lead to the highest impact. The question is, of course, how do you leverage the funding? Because the needs are much greater than at the funds that you have. I mean, I really appreciate the one slide that you put up early on the amounts, but the question is, how do you actually make those amounts be implementable? What happens? Which projects should you choose? How do you prioritize? And how do you get the buy-in from everybody? So I think this is the discussion that, as a next step, we should identify a few and then try and see how it goes and take it forward. Because if we're piecemeal, it won't work. So if we strategize and pick a few areas, whether it's on energy, whether it's on horticulture diversification, whether it's on dairy projects in Kyrgyzstan or on SME development in Tajikistan, let's pick a few and then take them forward. I think that's really the way to go at this point, because for us, we have funds available in these countries. Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan a little less. They're constrained by our IDA. Kazakhstan a bit more because it's IBRD. So let's pick a few. I mean, we're ready.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I would like to return to the audience. So do we have questions for our panels? So if you can kindly raise your hand. We have just finished our time, but we can have one or two questions if you have any.
Okay.
Do we have any questions? Yes, one question from here, front row. Please, the microphone.
Thank you very much. My name is Habib and I'm representing the ITFC. First of all, I would wish to express deep thanks and appreciation to all the distinguished panelists for their excellent insight about how they intend to launch the SPCA initiative and how do they envision the future. I have a more of a generic question in the sense, and I've been hearing a lot about inclusivity and a lot about ownership of the initiative, whether it's for SPCA or any other initiative. I think we do appreciate and we do understand this point, but the point which sort of baffles me or creates a sort of a concern and anxiety in my mind is about the process of inclusivity. How best can we ensure inclusivity in terms of decision-making, planning, designing, and implementing? And this is an open question to any of the distinguished panelists whosoever wishes to answer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody who wants to respond to this question?
Thank you. If I may.
Please.
Well,
please.
I mean, without going to a theoretical answer, I think any initiative has to be owned by the country themselves. You know, without that, it's not possible. In the specific initiatives, the demand came from the countries, and there were a list of initiatives during different missions, visits, and engagements. And then the design process was also shared, and there was a consultation meeting held where everyone was represented. Now, moving beyond this point, it's the design, then the implementation, of course, the specific initiatives will have to be work together with the committee that is going to be created, and all members will be represented, and the decisions will be made jointly. So it's not something that we will make in Jeddah or in Jakarta, and then the countries will have to face with it. That's not the way, and it will not work. So it is going to be a very inclusive process. If I even will go one step beyond sort of inclusivity, also we have to include the communities. You know, we have to get the views of the people during the implementation, local authorities. I think it's very important to be successful in that area.
So with this, I think just 1 minute.
Just 1
Okay.
minute. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Just to
okay.
also add to say that this step that has been taken by IDB is also a good step that will encourage the member states in the Central Asia to actually identify with the project. Because at the end of the day, really, the ownership was just building up. Tajikistan was very much keen in pushing the project forward. Azerbaijan also got in. I'm sure the SPCA will also encourage all the 6 countries to actually come in fully. And the coordination mechanism also will ensure that everybody is on board.
Yeah.
And so ownership will be achieved, inshallah.
Okay. So I think on this note, we can conclude our panel. Please join me in thanking our distinguished panelists. Okay, please.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for the contribution. And congratulations for the agency.
Congratulations.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. While our dear panelists are taking a group photo, let me just take this opportunity for just a few words of closing. So, honorable governors, honorable representative of the IDB member country governments, representative of the international and regional institutions, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I wish to start by thanking all of you and all of those who have been here today to witness the launching of the special program for Central Asia. The Islamic Development Bank is grateful for your support and dedication to the success of this initiative. In the first place, I am excited to see that the ownership of the IDB member countries to take this program forward. Without your ownership, certainly we will not be able to achieve the envisaged objectives of your own. Today's discussion also reinforced our belief in the significance of the joining hands towards common goals. So we're looking at partnerships and working together. After listening to the development partners' intervention, it is clear to us that there are great prospects for more effective and impactful cooperation within the international development community. This cooperation is not essentially limited to one region only. The horizon is even larger. As we have heard from the distinguished representative of the Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, there is huge potential to take concrete steps for enhanced inter-regional cooperation such as Central Asia and Southeast Asia. I am confident that all the objectives that we have voiced today are achievable as long as we continue our dialogue and strong spirit of collaboration. Let me reiterate that the IDB group is ready to do the necessary work on its part and to ensure that the SPCA will be delivered with enthusiasm, passion, and energy that it deserves. With the endorsement of the IDB member countries, we are happy to declare the SPCA, the Special Program for Central Asia program, launched today. Taking this opportunity, we are calling all stakeholders to strive hard toward effective implementation of the SPCA. So in a nutshell, the work is starting today. As highlighted today, during the course of the SPCA implementation, we will be meeting again on different occasions. I am sure that the future meetings will also show us concrete examples of joint work and actual results on the ground. Before concluding my words, I wish to extend the IDB Group's sincere thanks for your valuable contributions today. We are greatly appreciative of the support that we have received from all of you. Once again, my deepest appreciation goes to the government of Indonesia for hosting this very important event, for all those who participated, the panelists, the speakers, and everybody who's contributed, and also the working team who's been behind this work. With that, I look forward for meeting once again. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
mati.